show you how to basically just disassemble the unit out of the frame and disassemble the hydraulic unit on this 4-ton Lincoln or Walker 93657. They also went by the J134, the old style, and then it'll also be the 2-ton model they had. They're real similar. I mean, they break down exactly the same, everything. It's just the parts are different. It's the 655, I believe. I don't do too many of them. I don't see too many of them anymore. Don't see too many of these much anymore either. But it's also the aerohydraulic one they had. It was a 93657, I believe. They also were the Napa models. They kind of had a gray color instead of blue. Had kind of a gray color, and they always just had a 91 in front of it. It was 91 dash, the last 3 digits, so it was 91 657. They have the same jack on those old ones like that. The one I've got here is one of the older models. It actually has a packing gland on the. I've already disassembled this one partially. Anyway, you'll see it on here. But anyway. I'm kind of filming this kind of backwards here a little bit, but I kind of had some interruptions yesterday when I was working on it, and sorry about that. But anyway, I'm gonna try to edit the thing to where you'll figure out what I'm doing. But anyway, but yeah, this is the older style. So the newer style one did away with this and just had an O-ring in this top gland that goes in the reservoir. This is the reservoir, like that. Anyway. This is the older style. Has a packing nut and has packing in there. This jack, I don't know if I'll be able to show you putting it back together or not, but because I got to quote the customer, then I might order the kit if I get a go ahead on it. Anyway, but I just thought I'd make a video on basically tearing it down, kind of show you some of the stuff on it. Basically, to tell you how to put it back together. I mean, when you tear it apart, just like to go back with this in reverse, basically. But yeah, I've just filmed the tearing it out of the unit, out of the frame, excuse me, and it can be kind of difficult sometimes. Sometimes they come apart pretty easy, but one of the things I want to tell you on when taking a side off, basically all you got to do is take a side off of these jacks. Some people will try to take them both sides off, everything. It's way harder to put back together, but if you just pull one side off, like you'll see in the video. But sometimes these things get rusted up, and I've had to take a porta power ram and actually jack a side off because they'll be froze up in there. That's one trick with taking the frame off. Basically, it's just a lot of the frame is just pry bars, and once you get the bolts and pins and everything loose, it's just working it off. Same with going back with it. It can be kind of a pain putting it back together, but just kind of bear with it, kind of make sure everything's lined up because it all goes back. If it came apart, it don't go back together. So anyway, but as far as tearing this thing down, like I said, just yesterday when I was working on it, I tore the front end off of the thing because I had a feeling the cup was bad in it. You'll see here in the video upcoming that the seal, main seal that goes on the rod right here is just come apart in pieces. And that's generally on a lot of these jacks, especially once they get over 10, 15 years old. I found 99% of the time that cup's going to be bad, and that's what causing it not to jack up or causing it to leak down. I guess with a jack, when you're working, if you're trying to determine what's the problem, if a jack basically won't jack up and it's leaking down really fast, and before you can really even jack it up, more than likely that cup's either come off or tore up or blowed apart or whatever in there. And of course, when they do that, little pieces of that stuff get all in the check valves and everything else. The other way is that you can have a check valve problem. You can get something, a piece of trash, or sometimes a ball or seat or something. And generally, the way you can tell that is the jack will want to jack, but when you push say you got a load on it, and you push the handle all the way down, you'll feel that handle coming back up on you. It'll be pushing back against you, and that usually means the check valve, a low check valve in there that's giving you problems. Now, on this jack, it's a 2-speed jack. You got 2 pumps back here, and the way it works is both pumps work together until you get to a certain amount of load. It's got a little pop-off valve in here, and once you get up to say maybe 500 pounds on a thing, the larger pump will quit pumping. That's the way all these jacks are made if they have a double pump on them. A double pump jack is generally a better jack, even in these cheap imports jacks. If you're looking for a better jack, in my opinion, look for one that has 2 pumps in the back. If you're looking for they'll call it a quick ride jack or something like that. If it don't have 2 pumps on it, I'd stay away from it because it uses a deal in the ram usually for the 2-speed, and it's nothing but problems generally. The 2-speed pump, though, basically it's pretty simple. Just like I said, once you get to a load, a certain amount of weight, the little valve pops off as a spring, a certain tension spring. It quits pumping and it just starts pumping with the small pump, and that's what you're able to raise your load with without having to. Otherwise, if you try to pump it all the way up with the big pump and the little pump, you can't do it. I mean, you have to put 5 guys on it to push the handle down to get 4 tons. But anyway, so that's basically how it works. So you have more valves in there to do that. You have another set of valves. You have your load set and you got your speed set. And I'll show you when I take this thing apart. I'll show you how the valves are and how they're arranged in there, so that if you take it apart, you don't know how it goes back together. You'll know at least that. And the other spot that one will leave the jack can lower or seat down or whatever beside the check valve is your release valve, and that's the deal that you turn. It turns a little deal on this one, your valve. But I found it's probably 1 out of 1,000 maybe you have a problem with that. You can't get something in there that can damage the seat that the little valve seats against, something like that. Or it can be generally what a lot of times it'll be, it's a 2-problem deal. A piece of the seal from the ram will break off. Like I said, it gets on the check valve stuff, and there'll be a little piece of that wedged up in there, or clogging up a port or something like that. But that's generally what happens with that. But those are some of the things to look for as far as the leaking down. There's another very rare problem, and is in this little deal here. This is a top-off valve for your ram. All your better jacks will have this. That's one reason I don't like cheap jacks, because most of your cheap jacks, all they do is, in the little cylinder down here, they just drill a hole, and as that seal comes past that hole, the seal that's on here, as it comes past that hole, instead of building up pressure against this top nut, it will just basically, the seal goes past the hole and oil will squirt back past the cylinder back into the reservoir. As it does that most times, it's under a load, and I've seen them a million times. There little pieces of that seal get busted off, it cuts off little pieces of it every time it does that. So every time you top that jack out on a cheap jack, it tears a little piece of that cup off. So after you get several times, the cup ain't no good no more, and it leaks down. The way a better jack is made, they have this cross pin in there, and it's actually got a valve that runs through the end here, and there's a pin in here. This pin goes through there, and it's in there like that. I'll show you. Okay, it's in there like that. And as it comes up, as this raises, as this is coming out, it pushes against this cross pin. In turn, pushes on that little pin in there, and pushes against the ball in here in the spring, and the pressure relieves through the ram. So the cup never gets to a hole or anything. So it stays smooth, all that. So that's how a better jack is made. Of course, it's more complicated to build that, and it costs a lot more. So they don't build it on most of these cheap jacks. Anyway, that's one thing to look for. But you can have a problem every once in a while. That little ball, same with the check valve, something will get under it or something, and it will cause it not to seat off properly, and it can actually bypass. So you could be under a load, and instead of the cut may be fine, but it seeps down past that little ball in there. And it's very rare. I hardly ever see it. Most of the time it's because trash has got in it and it's caused that problem, and that's generally because of some other problem. So check this sealing something. So anyway, I'm going to show you, I'm going to tilt this camera down and kind of show you how to take the valves out and the pump pistons and show you what's on them. And like I said, I don't have a kit right now because I don't even know if I'm going to get to go ahead on this thing. I probably will, but this customer's pretty good about fixing these old jacks. So, but we're going to show you how to tear one down, and I'm going to show you some more stuff on the inside of it, and basically show you how to put it back together. But I'm not going to be actually putting it back together for you in this video, and hope maybe this will help you out anyway. All right, I'm going to tilt the camera down. Hang on. Okay, we're going to show you how to first off take the valves out. It's best if you have one of these, an impact screwdriver. You get them with different ends. You can find a cheap one at a tool store, Harbor Freight, something like that, for probably under 10 bucks. This is a snap-on. It's a lot more expensive, but I use it all the time. But if you're just going to do this at one time, you can just get a cheap one. And basically what you want to do is these, on this jacket has 3. This one here, I've already loosened these up. You don't need to be sitting here banging on this. But anyway, you'll just, if you've ever used an impact screwdriver, you take it, you twist it in the direction, it has like a cam in there, so you twist it in the direction you want it to come off. So when you're taking these off, it's going to be counterclockwise. And you strike it with a hammer. You hit it on the top with a hammer, and it breaks it loose, or when you go back, tightening it up. Let me see if I can show you a little better. Anyway, that's you tighten it up, or do it this way to loosen it, and you strike it with a hammer until it breaks loose. And that's the easiest way to take the valve plugs off, is with one of these. You can try doing it with a screwdriver, and if it's got a metal end on the screwdriver, like on the end down here, sometimes you can do kind of the same thing and whack it. Sometimes it'll come loose. This one generally will come loose easier because it's got a copper washer under it. These are sealed metal to metal, so these two here, so they're going to be harder to take out. And you just take it out. Like I said, it's got this smaller one here has a copper washer on it. It'll come in a kit, and you're gonna need you like a magnet. It's best, a little small magnet. You can buy one. I actually made this one. Just a I just found a little piece of it's actually an antenna off of an old radio, and it was about the right diameter, and had a little magnet out of I don't even know what it came out of, but I get these little magnets. You find these little magnets, and I just basically put some super glue on there and shoved it down in the end, and I just put some different color tape on there so I'd see it easier. But you can make one, or you can just buy one, a little small one, and you can just take this stuff and turn it upside down and dump it out, but then you ain't gonna know if you see any trash or metal, or you won't. I mean, you may forget how it goes back together, but that's what the video's for. Anyway, first ball in there is this one here does not have a spring. This little valve like this little plug, it basically has a extension on here, kind of serves as a stop so the ball will not come up so far. Some jacks will have a spring, help push the ball into the seat. Some of them have that. Basically on the bigger ball though, it's a little heavier, so it doesn't need a spring a lot of times, or a weight. On these jacks they actually use weight. The next deal down will be this little square deal. It's actually a weight. It's also a little spacer, but it keeps the ball from coming up too far. It pushes, and it also helps push this ball into the seat. But it's a little small ball. Weight. First you got the big ball, weight, small ball. So when you go back with it, small ball, weight, big ball, and plug. Okay. Then you're gonna come down here to the middle one. This is the pump for the speed pump here. The first one here goes in line. It's for the power pump, or the high pressure pump. On this next one, as you can see, it basically has a bevel on this plug and a bevel here, and that's how it seals up. It's just metal to metal, but the bevel helps to seal it, I guess. It has a spring in here that just sticks up in the end right here. It'll usually come in a kit, and then you're going to do the same thing here. It's always a bigger ball comes out first when you take it out. Like I said, this one uses a weight, a little small fat weight, and then a smaller ball. So when you go back with it, smaller ball, weight, and bigger ball. Make sure when this weight here is bad about, if you're dropping it in there, it'll lay, it won't go down the little hole. So you got to take something usually and get it to go down against the ball. Make sure it goes down all the way. I've seen them a lot of times. People will take it, they'll just drop it in there, and they won't make sure they'll drop the ball on top of the weight, and then they'll tighten the piss out of this thing, and it'll basically damage the seat, and then the seat has to be refiled and all that stuff. And I do that, but the tools for that are kind of expensive. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But basically, like I said, the weight, that comes out of that one. And then the next one here is your bypass valve for your speed pump. This is the one that allows your big pump to kick out when you get so much load on it. Basically, it's just the basic of the spring. The spring tension is a certain tension. It's a little stouter than on some of these, and basically it just pushes on this little valve. Just push on this little plastic valve here. You need a little plastic valve. Just make sure when you go back with it that the coned part of it, if you can see that, it's facing down. The spring will go over the long, skinny part, like that. You go back with it. And you can take this if you don't have a spring, and basically what it'll happen, it'll act like it's the speed won't be working. It'll just be kind of jacking up real slow the whole time. If this spring is broke or something, if it's broke, you have to replace it. But you can just take it, kind of stretch it out a little bit, not too much, and then put it back in there, and that'll cause a little more tension, and it'll help the jack to raise up. Sometimes the jack is just rusted up, the pin is rusted up, so sometimes help grease it. The pin, if the jack's been setting up outside or something like that, you can grease the pin. You need that pivot on that jack to raise up down smoothly. But anyway, when you go back with it, goes in there like that, spring, and then the plug, like that, in there. And then this next one here, you can see this one right here. This is your relief valve. It's really not made for the average person to take it apart, but sometimes you will have a problem with it. And I found that, especially if your cup has broken apart into small little pieces, this one actually broke off into bigger chunks. So it's probably not too much debris from the cup in the jack, but I've seen them where they'll break apart and you can't even tell what it was. It'll be just a million little pieces of cup. And a lot of times it will get up under this relief valve. Basically, it's got a little freeze plug or expansion plug, they call it. And what I do, I actually made this. I just took an old punch, a long punch, and it broke, and I just kept a little bit of the long part, and I just ground it to an end right here. It makes it easy to where you can punch it, drive it through that expansion plug. You knock it through there till you get through there, then you can pry it out. Because basically you can try just, there's other ways. You can try to just take a flat punch and dent it down far enough to pry it out. But I found this is the easiest way. I've been doing these things for 40 years. You just drive a hole through it because you're going to have to replace it. It comes in a kit. So you can toss that little deal. Then you get down to there's actually a screw down in here, if you can see it, but that is set. So this is a 4-ton jack. It'll be set at like 4 1/4 tons from the factory, something like that, a little over 4 tons generally. And since you don't have a way of checking it to make sure you set it back if you're going to take it apart, what I found the easiest way to do is just count it to clockwise to the right, and count how many revolutions you tighten it. So right now we're setting here, so we start counting and screwing it down. That's 1 revolution. Okay, that's tightened up. That's 1 3/4 revolution. And you'll need to remember that, because when you go back with it, you're going to screw it back down, tighten it back down until it's tight, and then back off 1 3/4 revolution. So now that you know that, you can just take it out. And I found on this jack, most of the time it's set around that, usually around 1 3/4 to 2 revolutions. And but if you ever get it, if you put it together and say the jack, you got it under a really heavy load, and it used to lift it, and now it doesn't. It's jacking okay and holding, but it seems like it's kicking out. You can just and don't put that little freeze plug in there until you do this. Put it under something heavy, and see if it'll jack something heavy that you used to with the little jack. If it'll jack it, then it's probably set all right. But if it's not, if it seems like it's bypassing, when you check it, you can tighten it down. You'll turn it a 1/4 turn at a time and see if it jacks it. This is after you complete it. But anyway, you'll unscrew that little plug out of there. Then underneath there, it's a big, thick, hard magnet. You can't push that thing or nothing. It's real tight. That's the one that basically it pushes against the ball deal down here, and it takes a lot of pressure to push that spring up. And I'll show you what. There's a little. It's kind of like a little guide in there. It goes down in there where the spring fits in it. On this side, it's actually got a hole in there, and that actually sits against a ball. It goes in there like that. Okay. Now there's going to be a little small ball down here, a little tiny ball. You can see that. And that little ball, so when you go back with it, that little ball goes down in there first. Drop it down there, make sure it hits in the little center part. Then you'll drop this piece down in there on top of it. Spring goes in there, and this little thing here, and you screw it down. Like I said, screw it all the way down as far as you can, and back it off to the 1 3/4 or whatever it was that you counted previously. Okay, so we got that, I think, memorized. Okay, so now you got all the check valves out of the thing. We've got the ram tore down and check valves out. Now you're gonna need to pull your pumps out and your release valve. So I'm actually going to turn this around to make it easier for me to work on. And you can just kind of snug snug it up in the vise, make sure it ain't going to fall out on your foot. And at this point, you can go ahead and unscrew this. This is your release valve. You don't have to remove, this is called a slotted tube right here. They do break, and they don't come in a kit, and so you'd have to try to find one. But if it's not broke, don't try to knock this pin out and remove it. Just unscrew the valve like so. And on the end here, it's got an O-ring. You can see a little O-ring. It'll come in a kit. You just take it off and replace it. Okay. Now down inside here, if you notice this has got a flat bottom. It's flat. Anytime you have a release valve and you take it out and it's flat on the bottom, that means there's something else in there, either a ball or a pointed, either a pointed piece or a ball, basically. So anytime it's flat, you know there's got to be something else in there, and that's on all jacks. And so take your magnet and pull it out. And as you can see, it's this little piece that's pointed on the end, flat on the other side. Make sure when you go back with it, pointed end is down, and the flat end is against the flat end of this. It goes in there like that. So make sure when you go back, don't go back with it. What'll happen is when you go to drop it in there, a lot of times it will turn when you drop it in there. You drop it in there like this, and when you look down there with a flashlight, it'll be like that. So, and people won't look in there, and they'll just go ahead and tighten this down, and the jack ain't gonna work. So make sure when you drop it in there. But what I do is I take my magnet, I stick it back on the magnet like this. Then I take something pointy like this. I stick it back down in the hole, put that in there to hold that in place, and then take the magnet out, and the plug is down in there flat. That's a little trick there. Anyway, that goes out like that. So basically, we're trying to tear it down now so you can clean the thing good. Next is your pump pistons. When I disassembled it out of the frame, it's a little better on there. Okay. I think you can see that. You can see I've still got a pin in here, so you're going to need to remove that pin. Makes it a lot easier. So just take out one of these Carter keys. You don't have to take out both of them. Just pull one of these out. Get it out. Usually a kit will come with these too, or at least one of them. Will come with one Carter key most of the time. But anyway, you remove this pin. As you can see, it's got two of these deals. These hold against the frame of the handle part, and then they hook onto this pin right here. Be careful when you're pulling this out, because let me show you. You pull this pin out, make sure you got your hand up here, because there's actually a little spacer. You can see that little spacer. And these two deals here always go around the small pump piston, and the spacer will go in between this one and the big pump. So if you can see that when you go back with it, you will. Generally what I do is I get it through there, put the spacer in there, kind of like that, if you can see that. Then you put one of these little brackets, and then you line it up and shove it through. And then when you get it all the way through, you put it on the last one. So they're on there like that. And then you put your Carter key back on there. So right now we're just taking it all off so we can get the pump pistons out. And just make sure you don't lose that little spacer. You can make something. If you do lose it, you can just basically take a couple of washers about that thickness and put it in there. It's just to keep it kind of in line right there, that other little bracket. So you can either put a couple of washers or cut something, a little piece of tubing or whatever about that that'll fit over your shaft. I've made them numerous times. I've never bought one. I always just make them if it's lost or if it's broken or something like that. Okay, then you get down to your packing nuts. These are packing nuts right here. generally you'll have to break them loose. Usually I just take a little flat punch and a hammer and going counterclockwise, break them loose without hitting against the piston, the pump piston itself, because you don't want to scar it up. So you basically just tap it around the side. Once I get to that point, usually I'll just take a pair of channel locks, and this is the simplest way to do it. Just unscrew them out of there. They usually come out fairly easy once you get them broke loose. You can see it. Packing nut. Take that off there. Do your little one. Go do your little one at the same time. Now this one won't pull off the deal because this is bigger than the shaft. But just unscrew it. And then just pull it out of there. Like so. And go ahead and pull your big one out too. Your hand, just get you something sticking there. Okay, pull it out like that. You'll notice on it has an O-ring. Pull out. It's got a little square O-ring on there, and then it has a little backup ring that goes behind it. A backup ring is basically put behind something as a spacer, but also to prevent something called extrusion. That's where when you pump on something or on a cylinder or whatever it is, the backup helps prevent the seal from blowing past the metal part of the piston. So it keeps it from kind of like getting pinched in there, kind of like and blowing past there. So when you go back with it, make sure you put the backup ring on there first, shove it all the way to the back part of the little groove, and then put your square O-ring on there. Next, just pry it on there, and it'll be on there. It'll be on there like that, if you can see that. Backup, then square O-ring. You can actually just use a regular O-ring on there also, but it'll come with a kit. Okay, you got that out of there. Now on your small piston, this is your power piston. This is a little newer style, one of the a little bit newer series, basically, of the 93657. It went with a little polysil on it. There's an older style that is even older than, like I said, I was showing you with the gland nut like this. That's one way you can tell it's one of the older series, because it has a packing gland. The newer one has just an O-ring. I think I already told you about that. But they also did some series where it has that, but it also went with the newer pump piston. Or somebody may have replaced this at some time with a newer pump piston, because you can't get the old pump piston no more, except for maybe some places that aftermarket that may make the old piston. The old piston actually had V packing on there, and it's still 3 little V's that all slide on the end, and it's got a little adapter. It's kind of V-shaped on one side, flat on the other, and it'll go back with a little washer and a nut. And that's on another side, another one. Like I said, it's a pretty old jack that has that, but if you do have one, that's all there is to it. Is the little V's go on there first, and then that little adapter. Just when you take it apart, just look at it. You'll see, memorize how it goes back, and you'll see how it goes back there. And so on this one, what you're going to have to do, you're going to pry this little cup off the end. It just snaps on the end. If I can do this without poking a hole in my finger. Okay. And when you see a new one, you'll see how it's flat on one side, on the other side it's generally got it's actually a filler or an expansion ring inside that U-cup. You can see that. I don't know. It's a little, but it'll come in. It'll come assembled like that. But just make sure when you go back with it, the U part of the cup or the opposite end of this end is facing the pressure. So it's got this little like plastic little backup ring that goes on there, and then that goes on there and it snaps into place. But we also have another little thing where you can take this off and you have it just down to the piston. But now both of these, on all these little jacks, they actually have packing down inside here. It's little square leather rubber type packing. There's also a little metal washer. So let me set these down and we'll show you something. On the smaller one, you've got usually 3 of them that goes in there. Sometimes some kits will actually come with these. It'll only be 2 of them, but it's because they're wider. So they take up about the same amount of space. It's just some of them have 3. Sometimes I've even seen 4 in some of them, but sometimes the kits just come with 2 of these, and like I said, they're just a little bit wider than these, so it makes the same space. And then there's a little washer in there in that one too. Okay, so when you're going back with the pump pistons, let's do the small pump piston first. You're going to have to assemble this one somewhat to get it to go together. So what you're going to do, all the parts are clean. This is after you clean everything. Make sure you clean everything. That's another thing. You're going to need to clean this thing. One of the biggest problems with jacks is sometimes the trash in them. So make sure you get all cleaned out and all the holes. And then what I like to do is generally I'll take some brake spray, and after I take it and clean it in a parts washer, I will spray brake spray, kind of clean off everything, blow it down in the holes, and then take air and blow air into every hole that you can possibly find. Every hole up and down this thing. Try to find, and what you're trying to do is blow out any debris that's in there. Then visually start looking at it and look and see if you see any little pieces of rubber or little pieces of trash or anything inside there. If you do, then you got to try to get that out. Sometimes it'll clog up a port or something, but generally what I'll do, let me show you with air, because that's the best way to do it. Is like on some of these, your blower basically will fit the hole, and you pretty much blow it. On a bigger hole like this, what I like to do is put my hand over it and then blow. That way it kind of seals it off, and it'll actually help push out something. Do the same thing down here over your cylinder part of it. Put your thing in there and hold your hand over majority of it and blow, and it'll help blow out any trash that's in these valves or whatever. Do that several times. Make sure that look in it visually. Just make sure you don't see any crap in it. Okay. Now, when you're going back with this, okay, but basically you've got the unit all the way disassembled. It's already clean. Let's just say it's clean. It's blowed out. You ain't seen nothing. Okay. Now you've got your kit, and you're going to go back with it. On your pump piston, you're going to put this on there first. Make sure the little ends that you knocked it loose with are facing the big end down here. You put that on there. Then you're going to take the new packing that came in the kit, and you're going to slide them all. Go ahead and put them on there. Slide them all the way up to the end. Then make sure you get your little washer. There's that little tiny washer, thin washer. Put it on there next. Okay, so it's all on there like that. Then you'll take your little plastic deal and your cup. Make sure it's facing the right way. The flat side with the numbers and stuff on it will go on there first. The other side that's kind of used out will be facing the pressure. So anyway, it'll just snap on there like that. So you got that already assembled. And going back with it, the same thing with it if it has V-packing on there. You already go in and assemble it with the V's. The trick with the V-packing is you do have to tighten the nut up to a certain amount. If you over tighten it, it won't go in. If you under tighten it, it'll be too loose. With V-packing, when you tighten it up, I just keep tightening the nut until they quit turning, and then tighten a little more until you can't turn the V's anymore. But before it starts really bulging out, because the more you tighten it, you'll see them bulge out. You don't want that to happen. You want them just a little bit. Then you'll grease it up and you'll put it in there. You'll put the piston in there with the V-packing and with the same way. You put a little grease on here, and you basically with V-packing the same way. You get it in the hole. With V-packing, you may have to tap it in there because the V-packing will stand out. Leave it in the hole part of the way. Make sure it's in the hole. Then you're going to pack these packing in there. You'll just drop that. Sorry about that. My camera went off. Okay, I don't know if I've seen it. Anyway, I think it just went off. But like I said, when you get the packing, you put the piston in there just a little ways. This is the same way with V-packing. You'll put that in there, and then let that washer just kind of drop down there. You're going to need to take you something that's flat and skinny, something like this, or you can just take a little small screwdriver. Make sure that little washer's down in there all the way. It's best to use a flashlight when you're doing this. So you'll take your flashlight, make sure that's down in there, and do these one at a time, these little pieces of packing. Push them down in there, push them as far as you can with your finger, and then pack them down in there one at a time. Little at a time on all the sides. Keep working it down in there until you get it down there all the way flat. Then do the next one. Get it shoved down there like that. Pack it in there. And then the next one. Anyway, you get them all down in there. Then you'll screw the nut down. And usually what I do is I take it down, I snug it up to where it's just getting snugged up. And you can keep trying to test, make sure it's snugged up to where you can kind of just barely still turn it. Okay, and so that's in there. Then on your big pump piston, like I said, you're going to go back with the backup first and the square seal. I think I already showed you that. It's already on there. Put a little grease on it. You can put it in there now. You can slide it down in there. You don't have to put the packing on there. Now just shove it down all the way. Then back with your little metal washer, then your packing. Use those 2 or 3 pieces of this that come in the kit. You basically just put it over there and do the same thing. Push it down as far as you can with your hand. Take you something flat. Get it down there evenly. Make sure it don't roll on you or nothing like that on both of these. Like I said, just keep watching it with a flashlight. You can do like this. You can see what you're doing. Pack it down there. Do all the pieces come with it, and then last you screw this down until it snugs up and until you can't, you can still move the pistons, but they're kind of snugged up, because what you're trying to do is when you go pull these out to adjust it to put the pin back through there, you don't want those pieces of packing having any room to roll, but you want them loose enough to where you can still work on them, because you can tighten this up later. You can actually tighten it up once you get it on the jack. But okay, so we got those in there. I already showed you on the release valve how to put it back together. The little deal with the magnet and something pointy or a little tiny screwdriver or something. Put that in there. You replace your O-ring on here. Screw it down. And usually I screw it down to where it tightens up. And then I go and back off on it a little bit so it'll be in the release. Okay. You got those in there. Now you're going to go back with your check valves. Check valves, I think I already showed you basically. They'll go back with the we already talked about that with your valves. You know, your relief valve. You know, make sure you tighten it down all the way, and then back off that 1 3/4 turn. Leave the little expansion plug out, the new one that comes in the kit. Leave it out until you tested the jack. Otherwise, you'll just ruin it trying to get it out again to adjust it. Go back with each set of valves the way I showed you. Small ball, weight, big ball, then the plug on each one of these, except for the pop-off valve right here. It's that little plastic one. It goes down here on the very end. It's a little plastic with the spring and a cap. Make sure it goes in there. These two middle ones are your check valves. This is your pop-off valve. This is your relief valve. Okay, so now you've got them all in there, tighten them down. You can go ahead and tighten them down with your impact screwdriver. You know, you just put it in there, turn it to the right, whack it till they feel like they're good and tight. You may have to, once you go to test it, you might have to tighten them up, make sure you got them tight again. But that's all there is to that. Now when you're going back with your ram, you can do this. I'm going to turn this around so it'll be easier for me. To where y'all can see it maybe. Okay, the ram, there's two little screen filters down here that you should have pulled out when you disassembled it. Make sure they're clean, blowed out. Everything's clean. Okay, you got the jack all clean. Go back with those two little screens. They just fit in two little holes down here at the bottom. You'll see them when you take it apart. They just fit down here in the bottom, underneath here, two little holes. You got two other little holes on the side right here, but they won't fit in there, so it's pretty much easy to figure that out. Anyway, then you've got your ram. Now I don't have a kit for this thing, so I don't have a cup to show you, but when you're going back with your ram, or when you're cleaning it, basically, I'm going to show you the little trick with that most of the time works to make sure you don't have any trash in this little valve that I was telling you about, this little top out valve. Okay. Basically, what you want to do is put your cross pin through there. The way you get it, you may turn it up like this, because there is a pin down in there. It generally doesn't fall out when you tilt it up like that. It generally won't fall out, but just be careful with it. But when you go back down in there, you can see it. It'll go down about flat, because when it's like this, go back like this, you can't get it in there because that pin's in the way. Make sure you turn it upside down like that. This pin will go through there. Hold it in place, turn it upside down. Then what I like to do is take your air blower and blow air, try to seal that off as good as you can. When you blow air into it, pull up on this. See if I can show you here. Just take your fingers on the sides of this and pull up, work it back and forth as you blow air to it. And as you're doing that, you'll hear it blow air out around this pin right here. And what you're trying to do is blow out if there's any kind of little trash or anything. These things have a little tiny screen in here, so it's really hard for anything to get in it. But sometimes those little screens got a hole in them or something. So you can just blow it out. Make sure after you've blown it a few times, then push down on things as hard as you can. Try to get the seal off. Okay, like that. Well. Okay, like that, where you can't really hear any air bypassing. That means that it's sealed off. Okay, you're going to go back with your cup. It's got these little plastic deals back here. Sometimes they come in a kit. You put those on there first, and then snap your U-cup on the end. Make sure the U part of it's facing outwards. The flat part with the letters and numbers on it will be against this. Okay, you can put a little grease on it if you want, or spill it here. Not too much. Then as you're holding, make sure you hold this in place. You just, with the new cup, it'll be kind of, you'll have to kind of work it in there. So you just kind of work it in there. I'm just going to kind of demonstrate. You just kind of work it around until it goes in there. And then make sure when you're going back with the pin goes in there. Okay, to where it's assembled like that. Now, going back with the gland nut. Okay, this deal here. This is just like on your pump pistons. You just unscrew it. You can use a pair of channel locks or whatever, knock it loose with a punch or whatever. Take it out and put the packing back in there, and you leave this kind of loose. Screw it down to where it's kind of like barely bumping the seals, but leave it kind of stuck, and put your little grease in there, because what you're going to be doing is sliding it over this ram, and you want it kind of loose. Because then you can tighten it up once you get it on there. So then you want to make sure, okay, you've already cleaned up all your parts, so you've got your little reservoir here. Generally, these things have a tiny little bit of Permatex or some type of sealant on them. They basically just seal metal to metal. But I usually will go back with some of the silicone, and I'll put just a fine little tiny little bit. Usually I just use my finger. Rub just a little bit around on this deal here. You don't want too much, because basically it'll break off and get into your unit. So you just put a little fine little bit on there, and you put a little on there. I just go ahead and put it together. To me, it's just a little extra. You probably don't have to put nothing on there, but I've been doing it since I've been doing these things, and it seems like it always helps. But when you put it on there, kind of give it a little back and forth. And what you want to make sure your fill plug, this little deal here, or breather plug, is facing on the top with your valves. You don't want to like this. And this is kind of a tricky part. Sometimes it helps with two people doing this. Then you'll go back with your top nut with the packing in there, loosely tightened. You put it on there. Anyway, tighten it down till it's stuck up. I usually, when it gets down to just a little bit of opening right here, I'll usually take another little bit of Permatex and kind of push a little bit in there, kind of with my fingers. Not a lot, like I said, very sparingly. You put a little bit in there. Tighten it down to where it's snugged up. Then you can either have somebody try to hold this with either another wrench or a chain wrench or something like that. Try to hold this in position as you tighten this nut up. I'm not going to tighten it up. I don't want to take the thing back down again, but basically you'll have it in the vise, and like I said, when you tighten this up, this piece will want to move on you. So you can try to just time it to where when you tighten it down, have it over this way a ways, so that when it tightens up, it'll kind of tighten into position. Or you can try to already have it in position and basically put somebody like with a chain wrench or something like that, or just trying to hold it, trying to keep it from moving as you tighten the nut down. Anyway, and then tighten it, and you're going to tighten the piss out of that nut and get it to seal off. I don't know what the torque is on it, but I use a 24-inch pipe wrench, as you've seen me tearing it down, with a cheetah pipe on there, and you put about as much pressure as you can on it. It's going to be a few hundred foot-pounds of torque, because you're basically trying to seal that off, and it's metal to metal. Most all of your newer cheap jacks just use they'll put a seal on there. They machine it. It's not that true, so they have to put some kind of gasket or seal. They don't have to be very tight. Actually, most times just a little pad hand tight. But on these old American-made jacks, almost all of them are no seals, and you got to tighten the piss out of them. So you've got the thing assembled back. Everything's back together. Now you're just going to go put it back in the frame, and on putting it back in the frame, you just basically go in reverse of what I showed you earlier on taking it apart. Anyway, yeah, just go back with it in reverse when you put it back in the frame. There's nothing real tricky about it. It's just sometimes the frames are kind of hard to put back together. Sometimes they go back real smooth. it's all jacks are kind of different, But anyway, I hope that helps you out if you're trying to work on one of these. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment or something, and I'll try to answer it if it's something you don't understand or something you didn't see in here or something like that, and I'll try to help you out. But yeah, anyway, like this video, hopefully, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got some other videos on air tools and stuff. A lot of stuff. I just make videos of, but you check it out, subscribe, and yeah, leave a comment if it helped you out or whatever. It'd be great. And that's about it for this one, man. So hope it helped out. Talk to you later. Bye bye. Okay, I forgot to add something to this while I was editing this video. I remembered forgot to say anything about putting oil into the jack. Usually I'll put oil in the thing before I put it back in the frame. It makes it easier for me. I'm right here with my workbench, and I have a tank full of oil that's pressurized with air, so it makes it real easy for me to do it in here. But you can do it with a squirt gun or whatever. Actually, on this jack, you can kind of pour it in here. On this model, the one we were just talking about showing you where the fill plug is, it's right here. You just unscrew that, and when you after you unscrew it, what you want to do is when you put oil in it, make sure it's all the way down, and put oil through that little hole right there. You can use a little small funnel. Like I said, I use a little squirt pressurized thing, but you can use a squirt can, something like that. But when you fill it up, what you want to do is fill it up. Basically, you don't want to fill it up all the way. You want to leave a certain amount of air in there, air area in there. But you want to fill it up to where when you look through the hole, you'll see the oil just start to cover this part here inside the jack. So this is your reservoir, this is your cylinder. So you'll start just to see it start to cover this cylinder, and that's generally about the right amount. And that's pretty much for all four jacks when it gets to that amount. What you'll do is fill it up there, jack it a couple strokes. That way it'll suck oil into the pump pistons and the valves and all that stuff. Check it again and fill it up to where it just starts to cover that. I mean, barely starts to see it. That's usually about the right amount. There's also on the old style, which you may have, the actual place you put oil in it was right here. There would be a plug similar to this right here in the jack, and that's where you put the oil. And the way you get oil into that, you unscrew the plug, the little vent plug, and you basically have to pump the oil in there. So what I do is put a funnel into and kind of wedge it into the hole. So let me show you. You get a funnel, say about like this, a little small one. It comes down to a small end. You'll stick it into the hole, hold it tight, fill it up with oil, and then just hold down with it with one hand, hold your funnel with one hand, and pump your handle back and forth until all the oil sucks out of this. And you have to keep doing that, and there's no way of knowing until you get the right amount in there. You can't look in there and see how much oil you put in there. So what I'll usually do is do about 3 or 4 funnelfuls of these small funnels, and then tighten your release valve up and jack it up and see if it goes up all the way. If it jacks up all the way without a load, just all the way, you've got enough in there. If it jacks up and all of a sudden it feels like it's running out of oil, I mean, it's a very noticeable thing. It'll quit working, it'll feel spongy, whatever. Let it back down, turn your release valve open, put another funnel full in there. Do it again. Check it, keep checking it like that until it jacks up all the way. If you do put too much oil in there, what you'll have to do is it'll just come out the hole, and you'll just have to jack it up, let it down a few times to push out any excess oil. But just like I said, do it 2 or 3 funnelfuls, and then check it, and it may go up 3/4 of the way, and do it one more funnelful and see if it goes up all the way. If it's going up all the way and topping out, then you've got enough oil in there. That's on the old style. Like I said, these newer ones have the plug hole here. So anyway, that was just something I want to add to this. I forgot to mention putting oil in there. But you can either do it once you put it back in the frame or on the workbench, whatever way. If you put it in there before you put it in the frame, the little plug is a vent plug. It actually has a hole in there. So when you got it on the side, a little bit may drip out, very little bit may drip out, that little vent plug, a few drops maybe. So you'll have that, but usually it's just a few drops, and it's just easier for me to do it like that. But if you don't want to, you can put it back in the frame and then put oil in it. With the old style, like I said, with the one that's got the plug here, you'll have to put it back in the frame. You pretty much can't pump pistons until you put it back with the handle. So anyway, that's just something I wanted to add. Everybody have a good one. If you have any questions, leave me a comment or whatever. Talk to you later. Bye.